Well, it all started in about 1978. There was a group of us, we were students at the Sydney University Law School, and we'd experienced seeing the establishment and the functioning of Redfern Legal Centre. So we decided that this was a really good idea, having a legal centre. There was so much need in the community to try and break the monopoly of legal services and legal power. And so a group of students and staff from the university and some practitioners, we set up a working group to look at where we could form another legal centre. So we went out and looked at the demographics and decided that one of the great areas of need was in the Marrickville area, because it had a very high migrant population, but migrants who were from non-English speaking background.
But Redfern at Fitzroy had shown the way. There was a clear need, and a group of students were keen to do it. So a few of us got involved, kicked it off.
So there were student meetings and staff were involved in those meetings, and then that continued through 1979. And some of the staff, Jenny was a lecturer there.
I was indeed, yes.
And also supported by the Dean of the law school, John McNulty. But unlike Redfern Legal Centre, it wasn't supported by the university per se, so it was totally voluntarily supported by the staff members who did support it. One of the interesting things about the formation of Marrickville Legal Centre is it had no formal structure at all. There was no organisation behind it. It was unincorporated association originally.
And one of the interesting things looking back is that didn't deter us at all. There seemed to be a philosophy as we can do this. We don't need to have all these structures. Let's just try it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then have to work.
Law was even more inaccessible than it is now. I mean, at least, there now are a lot more services available for people to go and get advice. But back then there was legal aid, which, really did crime predominantly.
That's true.
And some family law, and that was it.
Actually, people looked at ABS statistics and so forth, and Marrickville was a different suburb then than it is today. It had one of the highest ethnic diversities anywhere you would find within the Sydney area at that stage. There'd been waves of different migrants from the Greeks to Turkish people.
There were a lot of Lebanese coming in at the time, and an interesting mixture of Lebanese and also some Vietnamese.
That was an actual decision made that would be an appropriate area, and there was no greater motivation than probably the changes that were going on in society at the time. There had been inquiries with the Henderson report in relation to legal needs of people in lower socioeconomic groups and so forth. Yeah, initially it was just run on a committee basis.
Yes. Long committee.
Everybody donated stationery, and it was before we didn't have computers or anything. We would have had electronic typewriters. That would have been it.
Yeah.
Electronic typewriters.
And one telephone.
Yeah, we might have got a fax machine after a while. I can't remember. I think it was a lot of fun. We all felt we were doing something, making a bit of a difference, and we all came at it with a similar mindset to what we're trying to do here. There was nobody in particular, wanting to use it as a stepping stone to some kind of future career or anything, except for Janet, who wanted to be magistrate. Just joking. And we really worked well together. I think we had a fair bit of fun too, actually, life. And we spent a lot of time on the management committee talking about and worrying about money.
Yes.
We needed to hire a person to do this or to do that, interpreter services, more lawyers, administrative assistance with files. So it was a constant thing of working out where we were going to get the money and who we would hire and how we would then make it all work.
someone who worked for legal aid who sort of took the applications and made recommendations, and so you could apply
So
for
we
money.
applied for funding to cover the two salaries, kind of a social worker and a lawyer. What do we pay you?
Well, I was the first worker at Marrickville Legal Centre. I was employed as the coordinator and the community worker. It was a little bit daunting, I have to say, starting there by myself with nobody else, although I did get a lot of support from the management committee, and it also wasn't too long before I was joined by Janet Walquist as the solicitor. Our long-term objective was always to be a big part of the community, to provide services to people that otherwise could not access them. So not just legal services, but general support services, linking them up with other agencies in the area, other community groups. I think that was always part of our objective, to become a valuable community resource.
Over the years, Marrickville Legal Centre has been able to identify where there's been a particular need. Forms of discrimination change. Some might go away, but others develop. And to see that it has evolved to deal with the contemporary issues of this community around New South Wales or in Australia is a fantastic outcome.
Many things that people came to see us about were not just legal problems. There was that overlay of social disadvantage,
Yes.
of cultural problems, of some cases sort of domestic, interpersonal relationship issues that really enlivened the whole issue of what we're trying to deal with.
That was a time when, domestic violence became an issue that, law reform was required, and we were actively involved in having the laws changed. Our first big famous case was when there was a state ward who was refused an abortion by a Catholic Labor minister, and Leonie Miller, who was the children's lawyer at that time,
That's right.
she found out about it, and we took the matter to the Supreme Court and got the decision of the minister overturned, so that girl could have an abortion.
One case that we tried to run on a voluntary basis was an state industrial legislations for a harsh contract for people working under a contract basis where they're being underpaid under that contract. We actually took some action in the Industrial Commission about that.
Putting a service in a low-income area like that, I think achieved the social justice objective of equality, of equal access regardless of income.
Well, I certainly think that our involvement with representing kids and giving advice,
Yeah, I'd say children.
had a big impact on the Legal Aid Commission providing a children's legal service.
I'd also say access to the law by newly arrived immigrants and the need for services to interpreter services
Yes.
and
Yeah, that's true too.
all of that sort of thing.
All of those that were associated with Marrickville Legal Centre went on to work in our future occupations in government and in private enterprise. And we all took with us those elements from Marrickville Legal Centre which were important. So the establishment of the interpreting services, the establishment of specialist services in workers' compensation. The fact that so many of our staff became magistrates or held positions of power, this broadened their horizons, it broadened their minds, and it broadened their hearts. So when they dealt, and we all dealt with people from diverse backgrounds, whether they were diverse because of where they came from, their language, or in any other way, this all came from the fact that at Marrickville Legal Centre we had that environment to build on.